I'm that baby's daddy. Any fool can see that baby belongs to me.
I want it different. That little rascal belonged to me.
Proud to say, boss, I'm that baby's daddy.
I be the paw, boss.
I'm the paw that there youngin' boss.
I'm the pappy.
When asked about his 12 children with 6 different women, Nick Cannon said, "It's definitely not cheaper by the dozen. It's a rich man's sport, I'll tell you that." Diddy, Flava Flav, Fetty Wap, Future, Dr. Dre, Mike Tyson, Karl Malone, and Scottie Pippen all belong to the 6 to 7 children club with multiple women. Eddie Murphy has 10 children with 5 different women. And said Dick Gregory, father of 11 with his wife Lillian, "Back in the days of slavery, black folks couldn't grow kids fast enough for white folks to harvest. Now that we've got a little taste of power, white folks want us to call a moratorium on having children." White men like Clint Eastwood, Robert De Niro, Mel Gibson, Alec Baldwin, and supervillain Elon Musk have enough children for an intermediate baseball team apiece. But reactions to and reasons for pluralistic fatherhood is different for men along racial and class lines. What are the different types of men who have a bunch of kids? What do they reflect about politics and the state of the world? The fertility of men is an under-discussed and studied topic, which is strange because a single man can get more people pregnant in his lifetime than a single person can gestate and give birth.
I have 29 kids with 24 women and 3 in the oven.
Desmond Hatchett was back in court this week pleading with the state to help him pay his child support. He's the father of 30 kids with 11 different women, and each of them wants support. The state already takes half his paycheck and divides it up.
I was trying to follow my natural male urge to procreate.
34 children. At any point, did it dawn on you, this is too much?
No.
I'm here to pick up my son. Hey, son. All right, I'm out.
The first federally backed male fertility report in the US was issued in 2019 after being greenlit by the Obama administration. It found that 61.6% of men over the age of 15, or 74.7 million of the population, were reported to be fathers, and of those, 72.2 million were biological fathers. 55.2% had not fathered a biological child. 14.8% had fathered one biological child. 17.4% had fathered 2 children. 8.2% had fathered 3 children, and 4.4% had fathered 4 or more children. 61% of men who fathered children with multiple women had served some time in jail, compared with 28% of men who fathered children with only one woman. While the total/multiple fertility rates of men are obviously underreported, as we can understand from 2 decades of Maury paternity tests, let's probe deeper into those men with multiple children here in America. How are natalism and reproductive rights folded into contemporary issues that will only become more contentious? When does a man having too many kids get creepy? As we enter an era of American and world history with concerns about male loneliness, immigration, abortion, and birth control restrictions, let's discuss a type of man who is hero or swine, depending on who you ask. Hang on, it's about to get weird. The new year is here, and in 2025, we're embracing pleasure, love, and good sex responsibly. You know who can help you out with that? My absolute favorite sponsor, Beducated. My sex life was already great, but with the good over on Beducated, I've been taken to new heights. You guys know, if you watch Let's Talk About Sex History, about their amazing website of over 100 courses from certified experts. But did you know that Beducated published its results on human sexuality too? Their 2024 survey reported that 1 in 3 respondents wish that they slowed down more during sex. And with courses on massages, tantric pleasure, and various types of orgasms, set the mood for a more fulfilled and slowed down 2025. Because if you anything like me, 2024 went by too quickly. When you click the link in my description box and use code ELEXIS, you get 10% off the campaign's current discount. That's 60% off the yearly pass. And you can test out Beducated for free for 24 hours, and there's a 2-week money-back guarantee. So, what are you waiting for? Say yes to pleasure in 2025 with Beducated. joke is that men who have a bunch of kids want to infiltrate the DNA pool. During his time as a sexual predator, Jeffrey Epstein claimed to friends he wanted to seed the human race with his DNA at a proposed New Mexico baby ranch where he could impregnate up to 20 women at a time. While Epstein allegedly never had children, his desires are a little too common, and they're not new. As we all know, Temujin, aka Genghis Khan, founded the Mongolian Empire and conquered vast areas of Central Asia and China in the 13th century. It was a campaign that stabilized the bustling trade of the Silk Road and left 20 to 57 million people dead. While the largest empire in history fell in the 14th century and its unified areas fractured into its own cultures, like Russia and Western China, there was a lasting DNA legacy. By the age of 15, Genghis Khan had been married and procreating, but that wasn't the sole reason why 8% of modern Asian men today contain nearly identical Y chromosomes to the first Khan. At the bare minimum, he married multiple women, many of them princesses and or wealthy, to increase ties to conquered areas. In 1260, a Persian historian suggested the size of Temujin's family in the thousands, writing, "Of the issue of the race and lineage of Genghis Khan, there are now living in the comfort of wealth and affluence more than 20,000. Outside of his wives, scores of other women were concubines and rape victims, leading to 16 million living descendants in the modern era. But still, the sperm of one man was not enough to saturate future generations of DNA. Explained geneticist Mark Jobling, lots of men have lots of sons by chance. But what normally doesn't happen is the sons have a high probability of having lots of sons themselves. You have to have a reinforcing effect. So Temujin's sons and grandsons were similarly marrying and raping multiple women, with his oldest son having at least 40 sons himself. But before Genghis Khan, natalism was a key foundation of the world's three major religions, in which all of humanity sprung from one man. Adam's rib begat Eve, their union begat Cain, Abel and Seth, and so forth. A key Bible verse that guides Judeo-Christian identity and beliefs is the Genesis passage. "And God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." The creation mandate has been fluid for many couples and denominations, but in general has enshrined the pursuit of children with a spouse as an important directive, and sometimes not even with your spouse. Remember how Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. Sarah gifted the enslaved Hagar to Abe so he could fulfill God's destiny of being the father of many nations. Hagar had no choice in the matter and even got treated like shit by Sarah when she got jealous, but let's not turn this into Sunday school. The point stands, natalism is embedded in the major world religions. Having a child and indoctrinating them into the religion and raising them within the faith keeps the faith and religion alive. Begat, repeat, repeat. When fused with the biological pull to procreate and the importance of humans in the economy as consumers, manufacturers, and even raw materials, it's clear natalism, or the advocation of a high birth rate, is a dominant theme in society. We wouldn't have child tax credits if it wasn't true. But how does natalism intertwine with power and rape culture in our secular society? For men in power, having a bunch of children happens under a few umbrellas, sometimes overlapping, and definitely not always because of religious or political convictions. The first category is, of course, men with poor dick management. Raw sex with everybody, no thoughts about vasectomies, trusting their partner to not be ovulating, whatever. In an Iyanla Fix My Life special on OWN, the life coach spoke with 5 black men with 87 children among 50 women, including a producer named Jay Williams, a man with 34 kids by 17 women. He refused to get a vasectomy and insisted that he used condoms, which brings up a point that I be wondering, like, you know how we always learn about squeezing the tip of the condom as you roll it on? A lot of people didn't learn about that in sex ed, so I'm wondering how many people think busted condoms all the time is normal because they didn't know they were supposed to squeeze the tip. But anyways, we're not turning this into sex ed either. Back to Jay Williams. Said one of his daughters on appearing on the show, "It felt like seeing a ghost. I hadn't had any contact with my father in over a year, and I was not at all pleased to be in his presence. I just cannot seem to wrap my head around my father knowing exactly how to reach me and where to find me all of this time, who was only willing to talk to me when there was a camera around." So these types of fathers who just be having kids all willy-nilly and they don't even offer financial support, let alone emotional support, that's its own little special category. By the way, roughly 5% of marriage-age men have vasectomies. While 14.1% of white men get them, only 3.7% of black and 4.5% of Latino men get them. In the black community, totalistic beliefs that children are a blessing and abortion is black genocide collide with our recent past, where children were laborers, babysitters, and income generators. But there's another sinister component. As I pointed out, with people not knowing to squeeze the air out of the tip of a condom, there's a lack of sex education as well as a link to sexual and/or physical abuse. The rapper NBA Youngboy has 10 to 12 kids with 7 to 9 women. DMX had 15 kids with 9 women. Think about Chief Keef, who was 17 when he impregnated a 42-year-old woman who birthed his second child. He now has 9 kids with 4 women, and that woman was dead ass wrong and she need to be in jail. All 3 of those men grew up in unstable homes with young parents and/or abuse. Per a 2008 report for the National Library of Medicine, men who experienced multiple partner fertility were more likely than men who had children with only one mother to be older at the interview date and to be black, and they were less likely to be born to married parents or to live with 2 biological or adoptive parents at age 14 than other fathers. Men who fathered children with multiple women had, on average, more siblings, were more likely to have a mother who was a teen at her first birth and had their first sexual experience and their first birth at a much younger age than did other fathers. In fact, more than 1/3 of men who experienced multiple partner fertility had their first birth before age 20, 36%, compared with 11% of other fathers. So we need sex ed at home, sex ed in the schools. All right. The second category includes abusive men who engage in reproductive coercion or sabotage to maintain control over their partners. This is still an understudied topic, but anecdotally speaking, myself, friends, and family have been victims of removed condoms or late withdrawals. A man I was dating while attending Ohio State who was anti-abortion once took off the condom during sex without my knowledge or consent. He could have destroyed my life. Yeah. You. I'm talking about you. The third category of men are narcissists. Their sperm is a gift to anybody they choose to bestow it upon. Reminiscent of John Stamos in the 2011 Law & Order SVU episode.
Ken's my boy's dad.
Cute, detective, real cute. So now, I guess you expect me to wilt, right?
Ken, what's going on?
Well, this is the NYPD's vain attempt at embarrassing me. To make you all realize how many of you there are.
You son of a bitch. You said I was your one and only.
Clown said he'd marry me.
And me.
Jenny, you said little Leslie's the best thing that ever happened to you.
And you said we were going to be a family. Now I'm a single mom. I had to drop out of med school.
Well, my child's more important than med school.
Real life, Nick Cannon has recently disclosed a narcissistic personality diagnosis, which may be the cause of why he's having all these damn kids. Having so many children is not just an ego boost for Nick Cannon, but a guarantee of his continued legacy, with some suggesting it's related to fears of his mortality while suffering from lupus. Over in the Netherlands, Jonathan Jacob Meyer was banned from donating sperm because he fathered over 100 children through 11 clinics. He continued to donate through other channels, eventually fathering at least 550 kids that we know of. While Meyer claimed that donating was kind because of his family's good medical history, his actions can have ripple effects on the Netherlands population because of the potential of incest among all of the offspring who don't know each other. In 2023, Meyer was ordered by a Dutch court to stop and is subject to a $100,000 fine for each infraction. While sperm banks were commercialized in the 1970s, have we examined the long-term effects in repeat donors? Have they impacted the gene pool or dating pools? Reported the New York Times in 2019, there are hundreds of biological half-sibling groups that number more than 20, according to the Donor Sibling Registry, where siblings can find one another using their donor number. Groups larger than 100, the registry reports, are far from rare. From the beginning of this practice until the mid-2010s, sperm donors were anonymous, remarked a sperm bank executive in 1984. After all, what guy who's been paid $25 for his sperm, which is what we pay, wants to take the chance of being confronted 20 years later by 1 or 3 children, each claiming he is their biological father and each wanting love or a loan or something? But DNA and ancestry testing and other advances have ended cryobank guarantees of privacy. And there's no limit in the US to the amount of times a man can donate sperm. So if there's a guy out here with a dick out in the wind thinking, I'm a great guy, I'm perfect, I'm amazing, everybody should be like me, everybody should have my sperm, he can do it. Who's gonna stop him? Ari Nagel, a math professor nicknamed the Sperminator, has taken advantage of this, fathering at least 165 children as of 2024, and from what I can find, mostly with black women, please God. Some of the women were inseminated by the married man the old-fashioned way, including a lesbian whose partner held her hand while she had sex with a man for the first time. So this guy is fucking weird. And not only does he maintain contact with a bunch of the kids, but he also refuses child support for many of them. And Nagel, who is Jewish and grew up in an Orthodox upstate New York community, took his penis to Israel, but was outlawed from donating after spreading his seed at 6 different sperm banks.
You know what? I think I would say that I do love them. Even the ones that sued me for child support, I feel like I really do love them. I hope they know that.
Y'all keep an eye out on him. Remember I said that. Let's stick a pin in him. What motivates prolific sperm donors? Is it the desire to demonstrate sexual virility and attractiveness to the opposite sex, affirming your masculinity? Is it attention or something more? Nagel said, I just love seeing how happy the moms and kids are. That's why I do this. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Meyer also defends his actions and insists that donating his good biological matter is altruism. And this brings us to a mutation of Category 3, the eugenicists and religious zealots who believe that their sperm can transform the gene pool. In America, where white people will no longer be the majority by 2050, the low total fertility rate of white women in comparison to other races has long been a cause of concern, leading to eugenics programs we've discussed in these videos. But how has this transformed in the modern era? Telegram founder Pavel Durov claims to have fathered over 100 children with in vitro fertilization and wants to open source his DNA because it's so special. By the way, Telegram is infamous for being a platform that shields child abusers and rapists, and it's popular in Russia, the Ukraine, and former Soviet Union nations. Here in the States, the immigrant Elon Musk has at least 11 to 12 children with at least 3 different women, including the artist Grimes. He came by it honestly, with his father Errol having 7 children with 3 women, and he's compared humans to breeding horses. By the way, Papa Errol had 2 of those children with a former stepdaughter. Not only is Elon Musk a fan of Genghis Kahn, but he has regularly espoused his natalist views that population collapse is the second biggest danger to civilization after AI. I guess he's changed his views on artificial intelligence like a bunch of other shit because he's a supervillain, but he actually is firm on natalism. In June of 2024, he posted that it should be considered a national emergency to have kids. Musk is a long-termist who believes that the use of extreme measures to avoid existential threat is justified, which also explains his long-term erection for Mars. He's also a positive eugenicist, which means he wants to offset the amount of undesirable, low-class people giving birth by encouraging the wealthy to have more children. He said, I'm not saying like only smart people should have kids. I'm just saying that smart people should have kids as well. I noticed that a lot of really smart women have 0 or 1 kid. You're like, wow, that's probably not good. He's so steadfast in his beliefs of population collapse that Elon has allegedly offered random women his sperm, joked about impregnating Taylor Swift and Twitter users he overpays for engagement bait, and given $10 million to the University of Texas to study fertility and population. Wrote his daughter Vivian, I understand your new angle is this Western values Christian family man thing, but it's such a weird choice. You are not a family man. You are a serial adulterer who won't stop fucking lying about your own children. While Elon's recent pivot to Christianity and right-wing values is as fake as the assassination attempt against Donald Trump, his natalist stances appeal to both Christians and techies who believe in vitro fertilization and other technology. On Twitter, propaganda of AI-generated blonde families with at least 4 to 5 children are weirdly finding their intended audience along with trad wife material. Transhumanism, aka the new eugenics, calls for improving humanity via modern technology like genetic engineering and artificial intelligence to improve the human race. This kind of stuff is up the alleyway of Simone and Matthew Collins, bespectacled secular Calvinist Republicans who spawned from Silicon Valley and believe that low fertility rates among high-achieving people could grind human progress to a halt and end the world. They want 7 to 13 children and currently have 4. Explain the Telegraph. As long as each of their descendants can commit to having at least 8 children for just 11 generations, the Collins bloodline will eventually outnumber the current human population. Who the fuck dreams about this shit? Like, who dreams about that? Relatedly, population ethics is the philosophical study of who and how many children are born in the future. In this discipline, totalists believe that society can improve by either increasing the average well-being of the current population or increasing the population of people with good well-being. Here's Elon Musk's mother, Maye, encouraging poor people to also procreate.
And you were recently getting a lot of attention because there was a comedian online who said, listen, I get it. People don't want to have, they're talking about the birth rate, which your son talks a lot about it declining and the problems for humanity with that.
You don't have to go to the movies. You don't have to go out for dinner. You can just spend time with the most wonderful gifts you can ever have as a children.
While the wealthy want their own birth rates rising, they'd also like you to breed their labor force. Never forget that. Rather than work to improve society as is, these privileged and wealthy people wish to increase their own numbers and maintain a class divide. These techie natalists are paralleled by evangelical quiverfull families, whom Catherine Joyce estimates to be 10,000 strong in America. They believe that interfering or manipulating fertility is against God. Though they've never explicitly promoted quiverfulls, the Duggars, who have 19 children, have been linked to the movement. Within the quiverfull movement, the women are socialized from birth to believe that they are meant to always be sexually available to their husbands and ready for children, while men are taught the same. Read Psalm 127, 4-5. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. That quote took on new resonance in the late 70s through early 80s anti-abortion movement, and like the natalists who skew non-religious, adherents of the quiverfull movement believe that they are saving humanity with their children. They don't sound much different from white supremacists who encourage white women to have as many children as they can because it's their duty, or the black people who treat black women's wombs as potential weapons in the fight against white supremacy. Relatedly, lebensborn was the secret state policy of Nazi Germany that encouraged Aryan women to have as many children as possible and for German men to impregnate Nordic women in occupied countries to spread the greatness of Germany. Throughout history, this violent practice has reoccurred, as we discussed in Lectual Does the 90s with the Bosnian rape camps. In the present, J.D. Vance chided childless cat ladies whom he claims don't have a direct stake in the country's future. In 2019, J.D. Vance had proposed parents be able to vote on behalf of their children and to give steeper tax credits per child. This is similar to European developments in the face of increased immigration. Said Hungary's populist anti-immigration Prime Minister Viktor Orban in 2019, "We do not need numbers, we need Hungarian children." In Hungary, women with more than 4 children are exempt from income taxes for life. You can expect natalism to ramp up in the coming years in coordination with anti-choice policy and the immigration debate, plus rhetoric about male loneliness. Women who abstain from having kids will continue to be vilified as cat ladies, and they'll be blamed for the male loneliness epidemic, and incentives will be generated to encourage more kids. At the 2023 Natal Conference in Austin, Texas, a small far right-wing gathering where tickets were up to $1,000, it's abundantly clear what's gonna go down. Reported Gabby Del Val on the Natal Conference, most of the first day of the conference is spent defining the problem. In a nutshell, sperm counts are historically low. Our bodies are full of microplastics. Public schools are indoctrinating children against the good Christian values with which they were raised. Dating apps have gamified romance, tricking lonely singles into believing that a better prospect is always around the corner. Women have been convinced that they can have it all: kids and a career and endless vacations and so much more, only to end up unhappy, infertile, and alone. And as a side note, while geared towards a white audience, these are concerns displayed in recurring Black American discourse about dating, health, and society, which is important to keep a note on. Added Del Val, here lies the project, spelled out in detail. The people who disagree have bloodlines that are slowly going to die out. To speed up that process, to have this particular strain of conservative natalist ideology become dominant quickly in the United States, everyone in this room has to have more kids and fast. Elon Musk would share footage of that conference in April of 2024 on Twitter. According to current estimates by the U.S. Census Bureau, in 10 years, 2035, the adult population will outnumber children, something that Project 2025 seeks to correct. A recent paper by a chief architect of Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, is that, quote, overconsumption of schooling is to blame. The best way to promote fertility isn't funding parenthood. It's stopping the government programs that discourage people from having babies. Current education policies push people to delay having families until they are much older and impose barriers to accessing religious education, both of which significantly reduce fertility rates. So their solution basically is that more people should be dumb to have kids they aren't financially prepared for or even sure that they want. Let's see how that goes. What interests me is the way that fathers will fare in the coming years of intensified natalism. While it's extremely unlikely that the amount of children being born will return to pre-demographic transition levels, which is when the total fertility rate peaked before the Industrial Revolution, the rise in trad wife influencer content and the potential for abortion and birth control restrictions means more fathers. Globally, the average sperm count dropped from 104 million to 49 million per milliliter from 1973 through 2019. Will the availability of new technology mean tackling the declining sperm counts? Will it mean bigger families, or more adultery babies, or even more status attached to big families and having the economic means to take care of them? Will it mean more condoms or vasectomies? Will men demand birth control? I look forward to revisiting this topic in 5 to 10 years. Thank you so much for watching this short video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please check out the rest of Let's Talk About Sex History for discussions on everything from oral sex to Black strippers to reality show dating to Black women and explicit lyrics.